Hello and welcome to the Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always, here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go for a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. So grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. This episode, we're going to be looking more in depth at player housing. So there's been a couple, or more importantly, a big update on this, and it goes into a little bit of depth as to what is going to happen with the player housing. Now remember that player housing is something that is going to be happening within World of Warcraft Midnight expansion that is coming at the end of this year. So it's really not that far away. It's several months away, if that. It might come in the pre-patch. Who knows when it will be out fully, but this is what the post says. So we will obviously do the weekly news as always. We have Orta, the Broken Mountain, as your world boss for the week, as well as the Godfather. These are located within their respective zones in Azj-Kahet, as well as, I've forgotten, the Undermine. That's the one. They are located, obviously, giving away gear, sort of gold, bits and bobs. Make sure that you do them for the week. Mr. Pandaria Time Walking is your bonus event for the week. This is very much, you just do Mr. Pandaria dungeons and you get currency in order to buy mounts, cosmetics, pets, etc. And Temple of Hot Mogu is your brawl for the week. What this brawl entails is essentially the orbs that are in the Temple of Hot Mogu battleground. They are ramped up, so they give you a lot more haste, or the battleground itself is just more haste, like a shit ton more haste, alright? So it's a good fun battleground, definitely worth doing it once for the win and to get the conquest and honor. But let us jump into the blue post essentially. So, getting down to basics, decoration has two primary modes, basic and advanced. You can freely toggle between them at any time while decorating with a key press. Very simple. So what do each of these modes do essentially? Basic mode allows you to quickly place or remove objects and move them around while keeping their movement somewhat constrained to make putting something together quick and easy. It has a number of rules in place to help with this. Decor can be moved around on the ground and will move on top of things as it bumps into them or down to the ground as they reach the edge. This lets you move around and make them interact in an expected way. Very simple. Decor can be rotated around its up axis, with rotation snapping to 15 degrees increments, so objects don't accidentally unalign with other objects as you rotate them. So this is very simple. You have a grid on the floor, and essentially it is going to follow this grid. It's going to snap to this grid that is on the floor, and it makes it so that everything isn't going to be colliding with one another. You can't put an item inside something else. What this means is essentially you can't put a table inside of a chair. You know, that kind of deal. Yeah, it's basically that. Decor has collision with other pieces of decor, as well as the floor, wall, and ceilings, and players are unable to move decor through other things. No losing things in walls. Very simple. Decor will allow the floor, wall, or ceiling, depending on what sort of decor it is. E.g., a rug will align with the floor, which makes sense, while a painting will align with the wall. If you move it around a corner, it will continue to align properly. This also means decor will snap to the ground if you move it off of something. Very, very simple, okay? Certain types of smaller decor will parent to certain types of larger ones when placed on top of them. This means that when you move the larger piece, the smaller moves with it. This allows you to, for example, place books on a bookshelf and then move the whole shelf instead of having to move everything individually. This is very good because otherwise this would have been very, very tedious and something that would have been frowned upon on launch. So I'm glad that they've thought of this. Players can show a grid which enables snapping, which will snap decorations to the points on the grid, helping you keep everything neat and tidy. It will even shrink down when you're placing something on a smaller surface like a table. So this means that like I said before, this is kind of like what they do with the edit mode in World of Warcraft, where you can basically show a grid and you can get elements of your UI to snap to it, which is really good. And from what I perceived there, if you put like a book or like a plate on a table, it will shrink down. So it will originally be quite big, but if you're trying to put it on like a small table or anywhere like that, then it will almost scale down to a certain size, which is very good as well. The advanced interior design is as follows, but that's so restrictive. We hear you saying, don't worry, just switch to advanced mode and feel the true power at your fingertips. Advanced mode effectively turns off a lot of rules of basic mode, but also offers up additional tools of its own as well. So, this means you can do whatever you want with certain items. If you want to put a chair in the middle of your table and it's like phased in the middle of your table, go for it. Genuinely go for it. That is ridiculous. So, decor has no collision in advanced mode. Want to push a chair into a wall? Enjoy. You can literally do this. And I think that this is very good because it allows people to be super, super creative. It allows you to put sort of maybe a hanging sort of building almost. So almost an upside down building, actually. So you build your entire house, but you build it upside down. Some people might want to do that. And I think that's a very cool idea, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. So there are many different aspects that you can do to this. And I think that it's really cool that they have allowed this, essentially. Now, they also have, you can enable gimbals, like 3D controls on objects, which let you move objects on all three axes, including floating them in the air without having to jump through hoops. So like I said, you can just keep things floating if you really, really wanted without any sort of restrictions. And you can make an upside down house, essentially. This will allow you to make an upside down house. And I kind of like it. I really do kind of like it. Mainly because I think that a lot of people can be creative in this way. I think that there's going to be so many creative ways that people make their house, and I honestly cannot wait. I really cannot wait until I see so many people's designs doing these like creative designs on their house. They're building stuff like that I wouldn't even dream of, and I think that giving the people the freedom that they need is really, really good. And I'm glad that they did that early on and have addressed that early on, rather than obviously launch it and then be like, oh shit, we haven't given you guys any sort of like freedom in what you want to do. So here you go, like we're at it next expansion or something, and it's a bit like, oh well, that's kind of put a dampener on it, hasn't it? So hopefully they do look into that a bit more and they make it as flawless as they can. Obviously, some people will try and break the game with the advanced mode, but that's not the idea. The idea is to be very creative with it, and I think that's what people want. And I think that's what Blizzard are going for, genuinely. So a gimbal is a pivoted support that permits rotation of an object about an axis. This means that you can turn it 90 degrees on its x-axis, y-axis, stuff like that, which makes sense. A different gimbal can be used to rotate an object freely on any axis, which is really good. So if you want it diagonally, you still can. As well as finally, a third gimbal can scale an object's size up and down within some generous limits, making something smaller or giant. I'm very concerned at how big they're going to make some of these things. Is there just going to be a giant room with one chair in there or something that's going to be really weird? I don't know. Look, I'm glad they're giving you a lot of freedom on it, and I think that it's very, very good. Advanced mode lets you interact and design things with a very specific controls to make whatever your heart desires. Internally using this, employees have taken bushes and made them into a garland for their fireplaces. That's really cool. Constructed a boat pro from a bed. Okay. or made paint buckets into small spice racks for their kitchens. Oh, that's really cute. I like that idea. So this shows kind of just a couple of things that you can do with it. And the next part is actually really cool. We've been dying for housing. In addition to the decoration mode, we wanted to call out some of the other functionalities and choices we've made. Some because they're cool and worth sharing, and others because they directly answer some of the questions we've seen since the first article went up. For newly created assets, as opposed to legacy ones from existing art, we're allowing players to dye them in a variety of colours. So if you find a chair, but wish the upholstery was blue instead of grey, you can make that change. But what if the blue doesn't match the stained wood in the colour of the metal now? Well, you can fix that as well. So you can have an entire colour theme, it seems, for your player housing, which is really, really good. And again, it's something that I think is needed because it needs to be so creatively freedomed that people aren't upset about it. Because there's always going to be someone that is going to cry because it's like, oh my god, I can't change the colour of my plant pot or something. Something absolutely ridiculous. But it seems as though they're thinking of everything to allow you to change. And I think that this is very good. It gives you so much freedom to do so. So they go on, but that's not all. It's not just decorations you can use to customize your space, but the wallpaper, ceiling, and flooring as well. You can mix and match these to elicit various cultures and vibes, or just make up your own. You can take things a step further to partition objects to build walls where none were before, letting you make rooms with arbitrary interiors. So, the best way that I can describe this, they do have a picture, so it does help, but best way I can describe this is imagine you're playing Sims. For those that don't know, if you play Sims and you want to build your own house, you go into this sort of bird's eye view mode and you place where you want the walls to be. So you've got a grid and you place a wall. So you say, I place a wall 5 squares up and then 5 squares to the right. You have a right angle there, yeah? And then you want to go at a diagonal. So this is what allows you to do. You're just building these walls as and where you want, which is really, really cool. And this is what they're allowing you to do. They're allowing you to build your sort of house layout as you want it, as you always want it. And I think it's really cool. This is going to be something that I'm going to spend hours doing, genuinely. Whether I'm in an arena queue, I'm going to just be decorating my house or something and chilling there because I might be able to have some music that I can just play in my humble abode, essentially, within World of Warcraft. Look, it's going to be amazing. I love that you can design the flooring, the ceiling, the wallpapers, absolutely everything. It's not just you get a 4x4 house, enjoy. It's split into 4 rooms. You know, you can put a settee there. You can put a TV or a fireplace there. You know, even though I don't think they have TVs in WoW. I don't think they do. You can put a painting there instead of a TV. So I'm glad that they're allowing you to be very creative with this, and I think that it's amazing. Speaking of mix and matching, we saw a lot of questions around what would be allowed in terms of decor. Inside your home, you can decorate however you want. So if you want Blood Elf wallpaper with a stone roof and wooden floor, go for it. Yeah, I'm so glad that they are allowing. So they are essentially allowing you every single asset that is within the game, I believe. I believe that it's very non-restrictive. There are obviously going to be maybe a couple things that you go out into the world to unlock, and I think that this is something that they should do, in my honest opinion. They shouldn't make it tough. They shouldn't make it tough to obtain. It should just be something very simple, like you have to go and complete a Warlords of Draenor raid. You have to go and complete Heimel and you get this decoration unlocked, you know, that kind of deal. Or you have to do 5 battlegrounds or 5 small dungeons or like normal dungeons. You know, anything along them lines. I think that this is what should allow the game to keep having an evergreen feeling because you keep adding stuff behind older content that some people might not have ever seen or been to or known has been there in the past. So I think that it's very good and something that is needed. It's very, very much needed, and I'm glad that they are allowing you to be as freely sort of expressive as you want within the player housing sort of idea. So before we go outside, in brackets, while we're not really talking about exteriors in this article, it's worth mentioning that the outside size of your house has no bearing on how big the interior is. If you want a huge mansion outside with just one room inside, or a tiny shack on the outside but a dozen rooms inside, you do you. We'll share more about the exteriors from your home later though. So my idea is obviously have a nice little comfy house, and then you put like a little farm or something. I really hope that they allow you to put like a stables or something like that on the outside on like your property almost, because that will give it a sort of more neighborhood feeling, because a lot of people will have differences there. And I think that it's going to be very cool. There's much more to discuss with decorations. Where do we get stuff? How do I show off my collection for transmogs, pets and mounts? How do professions fit in? And more. Never mind neighborhoods, and we can't wait to share more. Please keep sending us your feedback and we'll keep building. But in the meantime, here's another screenshot a team member made mixing some various styles. And honestly, the pictures that they've provided in this blue post are absolutely amazing. It's good to see that it looks quite well complete. Like, genuinely, it looks very far along player housing, with us just knowing about it a couple months ago almost. So I'm really, really glad that it looks quite complete. It doesn't look like, oh, we've gotten one picture of like one room. No, we've gotten video footage of how it all works. We've got multiple images of how stuff is looking, building, and all of that. And I think that it's going to be absolutely amazing. I think that what you need to do is maybe allow people to transmog in their own homes with like a wardrobe or something. Maybe do that. I don't know. It's you could do so much with this. You could do so much. I'm guessing that there's going to be now. Look, in the pictures there is a resource meter. And I don't know what these resource meters are. I think it's something to do with like how many assets you've had like on the property. So within the like grid that you're allocated, you're allowed, it looks like 10,000 things. So this can be 10,000 small books. This can be 10,000 chairs if you really wanted. But I think that this is a very generous amount, because from what I see, a lot of the building that's happened, it's got a lot in it, and it's at like 500 sort of assets out of 10,000. I think it's a very generous amount of assets that you can use on your property, so it doesn't sort of blow up every server, I guess. But look, it's really promising. It's looking really, really promising going forward for player housing. And I've already got who I'm going to be building in a neighborhood with. I've already got an idea of what I want the house to look like. I've got an idea of the themes of it. And I think that a lot of people will enjoy this. This is going to be a place where people come along to their own little WoW house. They do dungeon queues. They do arena queues. They just chill. They have vibes. It's going to be amazing. And I honestly cannot wait for it. I think it's going to be one of the best features that they've ever added into the game. And it's an evergreen feature, so they can keep on adding to it forever, essentially. But let me know what you guys think. Is player housing going to be, all that it's cracked up to be? I certainly think so. But some people might not like it. That's fair enough. You don't have to do anything with this. It's something that a lot of people have wanted, though. So it's going to be something that brings people back. That's the main goal, I think. And I think that that's fair enough. If your main goal is to play WoW so that you can build your own house, I think go for it. All the more power to you for it. But thank you all very much for listening. Do check out all of the socials down below. Constant stuff happening, as well as the Etsy shop. Multiple things going on up there each day, each week, etc. So keep checking them out. But thank you all very much once again, and go with valor, friend. Goodbye all.